There we go. Got 4 people here.
So the topic of my thesis project was student reception of small group counseling regarding cyberbullying. So here's how it is as a problem. Cyberbullying is at an all-time high, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Bullies who used to be in the schoolyard threatening to beat up other people if they didn't give them their lunch money are now online posing as anyone they want in order to avoid being caught. One of the problems with cyberbullying and why it's so hard to control is the fact that it takes on so many different forms. It is not as simple as someone walking up to your child on the playground and taking away their sandwich or books. It is an ultimate control technique designed to create terror in the minds of the victims and coerce them to do things they feel are uncomfortable with or feel intimidated. This is similar to traditional real-world bullying. So the research question that I pose is, would 9th grade students be receptive to small group counseling regarding bullying? So from the research, here's what I found out. Online bullying was initially treated by researchers as identical to in-person or traditional bullying, just in a different setting. The more time you spend on the computer, the more they are likely to experience the issues. The more experiences with traditional bullying, there was a relation to the increased risk of cyberbullying. And it is estimated that between 20 to 40% of the youth will be affected by it in some way during their adolescence. So here's how to combat it. A couple of things. One, the counselors can create a curriculum assisting students to identify bullying language and actions in themselves and others. 2, to educate students about how to avoid the socially inappropriate behavior. And 3, communication and awareness are one of the keys to reducing or eliminating school bullying, and parental awareness of it can help aid the school counselors' efforts to eradicate it. And then a study conducted by Kimberly Hall in 2006 involved 5 7th grade students who were all identified by the school counselor as victims of bullying. Group counseling sessions were conducted twice a week for 3 weeks, and teachers continued to complete behavioral observation forms. Results of the study indicated that all 5 students improved in responding assertively to students who bully. They learned that they were not alone, and they learned how to collaborate and hold each other accountable when dealing with bullying. So the intervention that I did for the research project was a class lecture and discussion regarding group counseling and cyberbullying as an intervention to determine if students that were victims of will be receptive to group counseling. The school counselor discussed the topics of those bullying and small group counseling and how it could help the victims. It also went on to mention statistics and how it will affect the students socially, emotionally, and academically. Counselor then discussed how small group can help as well and be beneficial for the victim. And finally, the counselor had a discussion, opened up to discussion to gain feedback and their thoughts about the topics. So then the following day, the same group of students took an anonymous survey regarding those 2 topics, and then the feedback from the discussion was compared to the surveys. So by doing this, I would see if the surveys would or would not validate the responses during the discussion. So for the data collection, 2 types of methodology were used to dissect the data gathered for the research. First, qualitative methods were used during the discussion when feedback was obtained from the students when talking amongst the rest of the group. Responses were analyzed to determine any common themes among the students' perceptions as a whole. Second, quantitative methods were used to analyze the individual surveys that were filled out the next day, which were completed privately. The answers that were provided by both methods were vital information to validate the responses that were taken from the surveys when compared to the feedback from the discussion to indicate any similarities. The data were collectively used to determine students' perceptions. So from the discussion, three major themes came about. First, the students perceived group counseling to be a sign of weakness. To paraphrase the conversation that the students had, it meant that one is incapable of solving their own problems, or that they were just lazy. Secondly, they would be thought of negatively if they were not able to solve their own problems on their own. Their problem shouldn't be anyone else's problem, and it's only their issues to fix or figure out. And then finally, attending counseling for the bullying would be perceived as snitching, and the students were very mindful of this. To paraphrase, if word got out that they talked to somebody about being bullied, it would be their understanding that some retaliation would occur and they would get hurt as a result. So a couple of key things that came out from the surveys I want to go over next. One question that was asked: would small group counseling be a good option for students? And then they had four choices: strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree. So 10% said strongly disagree, 30% said disagree, 40% agreed with the statement, 10% strongly disagreed with the statement, and one student said maybe for some, which was the overall indication that they gathered, that they said during the discussion. It was, it's good, but it's not good for us. Second question was pertaining to confidentiality and if that would be an issue. 10% strongly disagreed with that, 30% disagreed, and overwhelmingly 60% agreed with that. So everyone thought that'd be a problem. They thought somebody would tell that what they were talking about in small group. Another question was asked, it was if I would join small group counseling with my peers regarding bullying. 30% strongly disagreed, 40% disagreed, and then 30% disagreed. So it wasn't as, it didn't lean as much as it was during the discussions. Now the only different only different answers that I got that differed from the discussion and the rest of the survey was the question: small group counseling can empower me and others to stand up to bullying. 20% strongly disagreed with this, 10% disagreed, 60% agreed, and 10% strongly agreed. So there's a shift in their thought process regarding this. So they knew that it could empower them. Again, they just didn't want to be a part of it. So a couple implications that were taken from this project was teaching students to understand when their friend tells them when something is wrong, it's usually a way of asking for help, which is the point of success. That's a big key. School counselors need to be knowledgeable about these types of bullying and insist that policies, programs, and interventions target more than just physical bullying. Educating staff about new social media sites and trends will help teachers find ways to look for and have better understandings as to how students can be susceptible to cyberbullying. Collecting data and consulting with teachers and parents are all services that fall under the system support. School counselors will use these skills to reduce this severe problem. And then finally, building relationships are crucial to understanding and addressing the needs of the student population. This concept is built on the foundation that any successful, comprehensive counseling program depends on the school counselor going out into the school and building a rapport with the students. The students need to become comfortable with the counselor so they would be more inclined to talk to them about getting help and advice. So thank you very much for listening to this. I really appreciate you guys coming out here, and thank you.
Yay!
they're still here.